Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا, and make us leaders for al-muttaqeen. And he told them, if I tell you there is an army ready to launch an attack behind this mountain, would you believe me? All of them, they said yes. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are in the month of Rabi' al-Awwal, and this is the month that corresponds to the month the Prophet ﷺ was born in. And it's a great opportunity to learn and reflect on certain things that we can learn from the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah Azza wa Jal has sent Muhammad ﷺ as a messenger, as a prophet, but also his life was an exemplar of so many things that we can learn from in our life today. So as a human being, as a man that lived at that time, we can learn so much from his life. I want to focus today in learning something from the Prophet ﷺ's life, which is leadership. The Prophet ﷺ was a great leader, and certain things from his life tell us that and show us that he was a great leader. So one of the things that makes a great leader, and every one of us is invited actually to be a leader. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا, and make us leaders for al-muttaqeen. So the first thing that we look at is the clarity of identity and the consistency in preaching the message and being consistent to the message. The Prophet ﷺ, when first time he spoke to the people of Mecca and he invited them to Islam, he stood in a crowd, he invited everyone, he called everyone, and he told them, if I tell you there is an army ready to launch an attack behind this mountain, would you believe me? All of them, they said, yes, we've never experienced lying from you. So he told them, I am a warner for you from a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you do not submit to him. And years after, the disbelievers, they tried so many ways with the Prophet ﷺ, and they tried everything they can until time came when they offered him everything to try to make him go away from calling to Islam. So they spoke to his uncle and they offered him everything. They said, if you want wealth, we can collect from all the wealthy people of Mecca and we make you the wealthiest. If you want to become a leader, we can make you a leader. There's no problem. So his uncle spoke to him and he said, Ya Muhammad, it's time to think about this. It's been years and years and years, and we need to start thinking about what's happening. Is there any compromisation? And the Prophet ﷺ, and this is what we need to learn the lesson from here, the leader, he said to his uncle, Ya Ammi, he said, Wallahi, by Allah, if they put the sun on my right hand and they put the moon on my left hand, for me to leave this matter, this deen, this thing that I'm calling for, I will never do so. He was so clear in his identity, he was so consistent, and he was ready to go through everything possible, to sacrifice everything possible for the da'wah, for what he's calling for. The Prophet ﷺ also was taking care of the Sahaba. They were in Mecca, and he knew that it was his responsibility to make sure that they're safe as much as possible. And he gave them the advice to migrate to Habasha. So he had the knowledge of the world. He had the knowledge of a place in Al-Habasha where there's a just ruler, king, Al-Najashi. And he advised the Sahaba to migrate to go there. But there were other times where the Prophet ﷺ could only make dua for them, could make them have sabr, advise them to be steadfast, and to tell them that the hope is Jannah. So clarity in the identity and consistency in what the Prophet ﷺ was calling for. This is a quality that every leader needs to have. Second thing is the humility and how humble the Prophet ﷺ was. For a leader needs to be humble, and he needs to be one of his followers and companions. And in Al-Bukhari, Hadith Anas ibn Malik, he said a man walked into the Prophet ﷺ with his companions sitting, and the man looked around and he says, Ayyukum Muhammad, who is Muhammad amongst you? And clearly shows that this person when he walked in, he did not see anything different about the Prophet ﷺ. He did not see the Prophet ﷺ sitting in a throne, sitting in like something special. He was just one of the people. Ayyukum Muhammad, who is amongst you is Muhammad. It's a great statement that we'll learn a lot from. A leader must be humble and must be one of his followers. The last thing is shura, consultation and asking for advice. The Prophet ﷺ did this so many times in his life, in Battle of Badr, in Battle of Al-Khandaq. And a lot of times the Sahaba, they would give him advice which is not what he wanted in the first place, but he would take their advice. In Ghazwat Uhud, the Prophet ﷺ was on the opinion to stay in Mecca, in Medina, and to defend Medina. But the Sahaba, they said, no, we go out and we meet the army of the non-believers and we fight outside Medina. So he said, that's fine. And the advice that he took from Salama, the mother of the believers, in Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, the Sahaba was so upset that they could not enter Mecca. They had to go back. That was part of the treaty. That's part of the conditions. And when the Prophet ﷺ told them to shave their heads and to be ready to take the ihram and go back to Medina, they were so upset that it was so hard for them to do so. And the Prophet ﷺ entered the tent where Salama was, his wife, and she saw that he was upset. And when she asked him, he said, they are not listening. They are not following my commands at this time now. And she told the Prophet ﷺ, all what you need to do is just go, shave your heads, don't talk to them, shave your heads, they will see you and they will follow. And that's exactly what happened. The Prophet ﷺ took her advice. He went out, he started shaving his head, and all the Sahaba, they followed. 3 qualities, just in summary: being clear about your identity and consistent, and be very open about your identity. Be humble. A leader must be humble and be one of his followers, one of his people. And the last thing is seeking consultation and advice, and not to feel shy from doing so. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us, to learn from the life of the Prophet ﷺ. There are so many lessons that we can learn, and inshallah ta'ala in other episodes we're going to learn more inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.